I would consider myself blessed. God brings people in your life at different times for a reason. And when Jim came into my life, it was for a reason. It was to help me become not just a good law enforcement officer, but a great law enforcement officer. And with the guidance of Jim and many others in the department, I can say that I became a great law enforcement officer. Born and raised in Lee County, born and raised over in Dunbar, went to Fort Myers High School and graduated from Fort Myers High School. Came out of the military. When you come out of the military, you get used to a certain type of discipline. And, I tried other jobs, but didn't have the type of discipline I was used to. So a friend of mine talked me into putting in for the Sheriff's Department, and I put in, and I've loved it ever since. I did road patrol for about 10 years. Then I got into a specialty unit, fugitive warrants unit, and I served in the fugitive warrants unit. And then I went to the U.S. Marshals Task Force for about 12 years. I was a detective on the fugitive marshals task force. And after that, I went to work in the schools as a school resource officer. You see things happening, and you talk about it, and you bring it up, and you're looking for change. Somebody else comes in and said, oh, this is gonna change. And it changes, but then it goes right back to the norm. And keeping things as the norm is what's keeping Lee County behind. This place has grown so much, and we're not keeping up with it. And it's growing so fast, and we have to change to keep up with it. And that's not happening, and that's part of the problem. This area needs a change. This area needs a fresh look. It needs a fresh outlook on the community as a whole, and not just one area. And a fresh outlook is nothing that you say, it's in what you do. When electing any official, experience matters, but especially as a sheriff. It's not good for the community for someone to be in that position to not have experience. When I'm talking about experience, I'm not talking about experience as a per se sheriff. I'm talking about experience in law enforcement and in this area. You could have experience as a law enforcement officer, but do you have experience in Lee County where it counts? This is where you're going to be working. This is where the people who you're supposed to be protecting, this is where you're going to be. So I want to know, is the person that's protecting me, do they have the experience that it takes to lead this agency to protect in my community? And if you don't have that, you shouldn't be the leader. For 3 decades, a person has seen the good and the bad in Lee County. They've watched it grow. They've watched the crime rate. They've watched the people. They've watched the demographics change. They've watched other politicians come and go. They've watched leaders in the community get developed, and some leave and others come along. You have to have a relationship with the community to be a good leader. In my experience, Jim Leavens has what it takes to be the law enforcement leader in this community. Jim would be the perfect person to lead this community into the next phase of where it needs to go. He'd be the perfect person to take this agency to the next level. Because if we don't grow and change things with the times, we're gonna stay behind. To use one word to describe Jim Leavens, I would say honest. I would choose that word because I've worked several cases with Jim when I was on the fugitive task force. And I mean, we went after some very bad people who did some very bad things. But in his dealings with the public, he's always been very honest. And he's been honest with not only the people, but with his comrades and everyone who he comes in contact with. He's always very honest. His honesty, his integrity, his character is the same. He doesn't allow his character to change. When your character starts changing and you start changing to be looked upon as bigger than life itself, then you're losing the people. And that's what's been happening. Jim Leavens has earned my respect not only by what he said, but what he did. I respected him more as a man than as an officer in the department. I mean, even when he started getting rank, he never changed. Some people get the rank and they change. Oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. Jim stayed the same. So you knew the boundary that was between you guys. He didn't have to always flash his rank to say, hey, you stay in your place. I had enough respect for him and others outside of the department that at work, I knew the boundaries. Like I said, coming from a military background, you're always going to respect that rank. You're always going to respect the rank. But I would much rather have a person respect me as a man than as an officer. His morals and his values, not only as a law enforcement officer, but as a man who has raised a family, been successful in raising his family, and has a lovely wife and family, and him having the respect of his family and his friends and his peers. That means a whole lot. That means a whole lot. You can actually go out and do your job when you know you have the respect of your family and your friends and your peers. You can actually do your job. A vote for Jim Leavens for this community means change. It means outside of the norm. It means that I'm going to be firm but fair. It means that Lee County is getting ready to go to the next level when it comes to law enforcement. Jim has got the mentality, he's got the know-how, he's got the experience, he's got the integrity, he's got the honesty, and most his character will take us to where we need to be. He's going to be the one to lead this county into the next level it needs to be by precepts and examples. When the community sees that they've got someone who doesn't just say that they care, but show that they care by their actions and by the things that they do, and taking care of issues when issues come up and problems come up, instead of putting them off and saying, oh, I'll have somebody take care of it. He's going to be the one to step out there and say, you know what? I'll take care of it. I'm not going to sit around and wait on somebody else to do something when I can take care of it. Jim Leavens will be one of the hardest working sheriffs we have ever had in Lee County. He's going to go out and he's going to not talk the job, but he's going to do the job. Others talk it, but Jim has lived it, and he's going to continue to live it. Even outside of law enforcement, he's still law enforcement. It's kind of hard to take 3 decades of experience and just put it aside. You can't. It's gonna be with you. This is what he put in all that time for. This is what he served on all those different positions for. This is what he spent all that time out in the community for, and getting to know people and letting people know the real him instead of the uniform. Get to know the real person outside of the uniform. It all boils down to this time right here. So this is where the real Jim Leavens shows up. My name is Bubba Green. I'm voting Leavens for Lee because experience matters.